All right, welcome. We're going to wait for just a couple more minutes to let everybody in from the waiting room, and then we'll start our session today. All right, welcome. My name is Erica Kwam. I'm the Interim Director of Purdue Galleries here in West Lafayette, Indiana. Thanks for joining us today for the panel talk for our current exhibition, The Alchemical Image. We are recording and taking questions at the end. So if you are unable to make all of this and want to refer back to it, you'll have that opportunity via our YouTube. And if you have any questions, please type them into chat. And Sarah will be keeping track of those and we'll ask them at the Q&A at the end. We're also going to keep you all muted for the duration of the session, as we have a lot of people to speak and get through. I'm now going to turn it over to artist and curator Sara Poer, one of our photography faculty at the Rueff School of Design, Art, and Performance here in Purdue University. All yours, Sarah.
Thanks. Okay, so my name's Sarah, like Erica just said, and I'm faculty teaching in photography currently at the Rueff School. And I curated this show, The Alchemical Image, with some wonderful people that I met at the Experimental Photo Festival back in January in Barcelona. And so it's a really great event where a lot of people who are like-minded and use alternative processes get together. And it was really great because not a lot of people do what we do in the world of photography. And so it really felt like we all kind of met our people there. So now I'm going to read my curatorial statement for the show. Women have always struggled for their place in the fine art world. For decades, women worked in the mediums available to them, often resigned to craft and decorative arts. Experimental or craft photography gave women a way to make their mark on this emerging new medium. Women like Anna Atkins and Lady Jocelyn used these new media as ways to mark their place in history. Contemporary women artists continue to use experimentation as ways to expand their place in art. This show invites 7 women artists to share their work as ways of expanding our definition of fine art and photography. So now I'm going to ask each of our participating artists to introduce themselves and talk about what mediums and processes they use and what work they have in our show here. So Rosalie, would you like to go first?
Sure. I'm Rosalie Anderson. I live in Austin, Texas. I shoot with mostly Polaroid cameras and use, I guess, I don't really have a name for it, but do like Polaroid bathing, I suppose, where I soak them in like all kinds of different solutions to totally like distort the original image and create something entirely new. I sort of have a background in sculpture, and I feel like Polaroid film has a very sculptural nature. There are different layers that you can turn into something completely different. I also shoot with some 35mm and Holga cameras, but mostly the past couple of years I've just been doing work with Polaroid. Oh, sorry. I have, if Sarah, if you can pull up the images. Sorry, I wasn't able to pull them up on my computer. These are some of the images. These are all either I-type or SX70 exposures that were soaked in peroxide, Coca-Cola, glycerin, and some food dye. It kind of makes the emulsion sort of bubble, resemble sort of like fabric or rubber. And this last one has a little bleach as well. Thanks, Sarah.
Irina, did you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Irina, and I live in San Francisco, California. And I'm pretty much, I do all analog techniques. So I shoot film, whether it's 35 millimeters, medium format. I do some work with Polaroids, and also I have set up a darkroom in my house. So I do some printing and darkroom experimentation as well. And I love it all because it's just like, it's very tangible, physical, and chemical. And like, I like the craftiness of that. And it kind of reminds me of like, sort of like analogous to cooking, because you have a recipe and then you can substitute different ingredients. So you can like add new things or subtract some ingredients. And that's why you kind of experiment and find a newer flavor or something like that. So in this show that I submitted some of the images, basically all of the images were processed in black and white chemistry, even though some of them are colored. So I think that's kind of my take on this experiment. And let me see if I can share my screen here. Yeah, so this one is, it's black and white, but also I soaked it in some household chemistry, like bath cleaning chemistry. This one is the same, but it's a color film, and I processed it in black and white chemistry. More black and white. Yeah, so that's about it. Nice to see everyone.
Sandrine, did you want to go next?
So hi, I'm Sandrine. I live in London now, come from Paris. So I used to work with digital photography and building some sets with plants and things that disappear like ice. And I was really attracted to more intuitive process. I wanted to be hands-on, build things with my hand. And for familial reason, I was stuck at some moment in the house much before lockdown. So I tried to find a process that would allow me to work 5 minutes here, an hour there with what was laying around my house without having to access a dark room or go too far or have material. And I really fell in love with the cyanotype process. So I use cyanotype, I use wet cyan where I use some product or like lemon or vinegar to interfere with exposure. I will use a natural dye that Sara showed me and Virginia when we went to the in Barcelona to the festival, and with a natural dye like beetroot. And after, when I have my cyanotype, I will use different cyanotypes to put them on top of each other, cut them, do a sculpture, recombine them, and sometimes the results I would scan and we reuse to put in a painting. So it goes from different medium, different structure. It transforms. I want to use it like to express, like regaining my freedom and all the fear I have as a mother, as a woman, being locked in my house sometime, or having to cope with the kid, the difficulty, and all like the feeling we could get bottled up inside us. So I put little cube, I built the cube for the exhibition, would be like going inside each other, like a toy I had, like a Russian doll we had when we were small. And I like to build the thing. I found the process very therapeutic, and it's a big part of the result is not the most important. What I like is the process. Be able to be free, do what I want, break the rule. I have no limits. Because as a woman, I found I have some limits, and in my art, I want to be free totally. So I really like that process because of that. So I don't know if, do you want me to show the cube or not? So this is a thing I went, all the cubes I went for the exhibition. So we can put them like this, so inside each other, like this. And they're all done with cyanotype that been attacked and been ripped off with lemon vinegar. I put some nets on it, beetroot, that is beetroot, just a beetroot. And in this one, I use thing you can use usually more in mixed media, which tape, and various resist material. And sometimes what I do is I'm going to use, like, this is 3 cyanotypes that have been cut, ripped off, and put on top of each other and glued back together. And sometimes I would sew them. So if I sew them, it will be more like this. So this is 2 cyanotypes been ripped off in piece, and then it's like mending and repairing. That's what I like to do, changing the process all the time. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Laura, did you want to go next?
Yes, sure. Thanks a lot, Sara, for this opportunity, and Erica. I'm really honored to be here, and it's great to see you again, everyone, from the festival in January. My name is Laura, and I am originally from Italy, but I have lived in Barcelona for 12 years. And I use analog photography, and I like to do multiple exposure, double exposures, and I do home film developing. And recently, especially after meeting all these amazing artists during the Experimental Photo Festival, I was really inspired, and I discovered intervention on photography with non-chemical liquids. And the work I did for this show is the first one I did using some water on negatives films, and I did it using some films I had from a long time ago from a project that is still in process, and it's about my family. It's very personal, and it's I bought for them a disposable camera to my father, to my mother, to my sister, and and me and myself. And as we were living far away from each other, I needed to see what they were seeing in their daily life. So I gave them these cameras just to take photos of what they were seeing. And then I developed them at home, and I had them here, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do with that. And during the lockdown, I have decided to put them in some water and colors. So the outcomes were like this. I don't know if you can see it. And then I can share my screen to see some photos. Wait. Okay, can you see it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so these are the the glasses where I put some water and some color, and for each member of a family I used a different color. And it's weird how when I scanned them, like the blue ones were red, it was crazy. So these are the photos from my sister, and this from my father, my mother, and me. There are many others, but for the exhibition I chose 4, and it's one for each member. And I love the way you put it in the show. Thanks so much, Sara.
Thank you. I'm glad you like it. Okay. Who's next?
It's me.
Yes.
Yeah. First, thank you very much, Sara and Erica, for having me. It's really nice to see you all again here. I really missed you and the festival, so it's a great occasion. It's a great time just to be here together. So I'm Nieves Mingueza. Artist, photographer, and educator. I'm Spanish, but now I'm living in London. I'm studying an MA in photojournalism and documentary photography in the University of Art of London. So I say that my work is mainly focusing on new forms of narrative in documentary and experimental photography. For that, I'm using analog photography, also collage, that's one of my main techniques. And I can add video and text, especially poetry. So I suppose I'm a storyteller, so, but in a experimental way, you know? In that case, I'm exploring now contemporary issues such as memory, human conflicts, mental health, and immigration. I'm also love collaboration with musicians, other artists, writers. I'm so happy to have different format of this kind of collaboration in books, also buying it. This. I love this opportunity and this kind of touch, and be happy with this treasure. So, well, I would like just to share with you the project that Sara curated for this exhibition. So let's see if we can. Yeah, this is my website. Okay, this project is really important for me because the inspiration was a difficult moment that my mother had in the past when I was, sorry, it's because it doesn't work let me see the screen properly. Oh. The GIF. Come on. Well, it's fine. So it was a difficult moment that my mother went through in the past when her 3 daughters gradually decided to leave the family home. Because we have to become adults. So she began to experience the so-called emptiness syndrome. This is a situation that triggered a severe depression in my mother. So that was the origin. Also, I connected with my own experience in London. So I was on a bus or in a supermarket or in a cinema, I just wondering, oh, maybe these women around me, they are experiencing this kind of or another different difficulty or complication now in that particular moment. So I started to create different collages documenting this kind of difficulties in the life of a woman. For example, this one is about difficult relationships. This one is the bipolar behavior. It's difficult to have a partner be bipolar. This one is when we have to reach to get really, really difficult objectives. So we get really stressed, anxious. This one is about when our personality is null because our partner is just the main person. This one is related to solitude, to isolation. This one is related to gentrification. Here in London is really normal right now. This one I'm connected with sadness or this kind of emotion. This one connects with dreams or difficulties when we sleep. This one is about infidelity. with this image I'm connected with stress, especially urban stress. That one that I love is when a woman experiences difficulties to get pregnant. I have a few friends that, because our situation now, we are always studying, working, and blah blah blah, so they can get pregnant when they are 40 years old. So this is, I'm just exploring this kind of difficulty and emotion. That one is about childhood trauma. This one is problems with drinks, with alcohol, and that one was the first. The technique for that project is collage. I use for this project original photographies, all photographies, and also different kind of old antique papers. Just managing the different position of them. I try to create this kind of storytelling, no, about difficulties in the life of a woman. And that's it. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Melanie, would you like to go next?
Okay. Nice to meet you again since January. Thank you very much, Sara, to invite me. And I'm very glad to be in this wonderful exhibition. Thank you. I'm Melanie Patrice. I'm living in Brussels, in Belgium. I work with photography from a long time. And I do experimentation since I'm doing Polaroid. It's my main work is with Polaroid 600 and FP 100. My subject is more the space and the body in the space, how the space is inhibiting us, and how we are in the space. And I made a lot of double exposure with my own portraits, in self-portraits. I explore a lot the environment who surround me. And I'm doing since 2 years, I do collaboration with a friend, which is Nathalie Anneka, which was there also in Barcelona in January. And we do very, very big format, like 6 meter on 2 meters, analog photography. And we proposed that for the XP21, but it was too big. Then we made emulsions on paper. And then we experiment together a lot, and in my own work, I work with all I can, Stenope, Diana, and a double exposure with Polaroid and with all I can. And with paper, I have a technical room. I don't remember the word in English, but and I do a process with paper, and I want to explore more and more. And I do work also with my blood a lot because I'm a woman. I don't know if it's because, but I have no children, no kids, and it's a question in me. And then I have the blood each month, and it remember me that I don't have. And then I think I need to do something with that, and I do a lot of things. The work you choose for the exhibition is a work I made during the isolation moment. I was to my boyfriend's home and I had no materials with me. Then I played with my Polaroids without water, without anything, just scissor and even not glue, just to put them together, and they stayed like this. And I loved the way that they just appears. That was really funny. And I have I work also a lot with paper. I have some Japanese paper, and I make this is blood. This is blood, but I make transfers, Polaroid transfers, and after I would like to draw on those paper. I'm working also like an art therapist in psychiatry. Then I work like 30 hours per week. Then my creative time is not so high, so big. I would like more, but yeah, this is it. And I work also with the ecography and with maps, and I make blood maps. And often I do together Polaroids with blood and cyanotype also. And what else? I think it's already, I can show you something. I don't know exactly how to do. Partager l'écran.
I can show your images from the show if you want me to.
Oh, okay. You have it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because can you see something? No. Okay. Okay, nice. Thank you. Yeah. And during the isolation time, it was the quarantine. It was a bit hard to be cut of the whole outside life. And the freedom, I think it's Sandrine who talked about freedom. And I think this series is talking about that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Virginia, would you like to go?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Virginia, and I'm from Milan. I'm so happy to be here right now, like to be virtually here right now. And my work is, I'm actually a painter. So I studied painting for 5 years. And when I discovered analog photography, cyanotype, etching, like my options were just wider and more interesting to me. So I started using these mediums as I used painting. So I started using them in the same way. And to me, printmaking, cyanotype mostly is just part of the work. Is not only a technique, it's just very related to my work, to my process. And this work I'm exhibiting is the first digital work I've made. I did some tried, but this one is the first one, and it's very important to me because it's a work about something that was really important. And I did it by working with photographies of 10 breast cancer survivors. And I started using the wrinkles and creases I took from their hands, their face, and I abstracted them and I created a map. I will show you. So this is a detail. These are 3 maps, which are the 3 I'm exhibiting in Purdue. And it's like 3 screenshots. It's like a and infinite possibilities of infinite maps with these wrinkles going with each other and connecting and creating different paths, as showing that every sign of time on a woman's body has an history and is part of something that can lead to something else and can go together, as well as like our histories came together at Experimental Photo Festival and then something else came from it. So I'm really honored to be showing this work here. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. So the first kind of two-part question that I wanted to ask everybody is, what drew you to alternative or experimental modes of image making? And then what things have you found there? So what new discoveries has it led to, and things like that? So whoever wants to talk from the panel can go ahead.
For me, it kind of happened by mistake, at least the working with Polaroids. I had some boxes of very old Polaroids from when I was like 19 that sat in a wet corner for a long time. And some of them that I pulled out had just like the start of like some of the distortions that I work really hard to create now. And so I just like, oh wow, that's something I never thought of, and started soaking them in different liquids and loving like all of the results. And then, I mean, just taking it even farther, I started with just like water, and then realizing that different things can accelerate all the results that I want or make the colors more vivid. So it was just sort of a progression from like an accident.
I started doing the cyanotype because I like painting too, and I thought it was a good mix between photography and painting, and at the same time it's a very intuitive process. So it was taking me away from my computer, where I was spending too much time with the looking at thousands of images. So I was more working. I could see the image being in front of my eyes and appearing, and I found it's like a really discovery. So it's a process that I found very playful and attractive and very intuitive.
And for me, I remember a friend, she was doing self-portrait with Nivea, and I was at in the dark room, in the school dark room, and it was so I love that it was a material, it was not something we cannot touch. And for me, this is one of the main thing, is the material, is that photography and can be touched and can be held in the hand, and just like it is like the skin is something you can feel in the real time. And this gave me the envy to explore, and as someone says, it's a very big freedom to explore and to be allowed to do that. It's yeah, for me it's really experimenting and playing, really playing, trying, and yeah, all the time.
In my case was something natural. I always was in love with paper, with old photos. I used to look at the family albums again and again. So I suppose it was just a process. When I had the necessity to tell a story, to express myself, I found digital photography, for example, is boring for me. I can't engage with this activity. So I think it was a natural process. Just I really love go to secondhand market and secondhand shops. So I started to accumulate books and papers and these kind of things that I can touch and I smell. And after that, well, I started to build different projects and histories, and that's it. In my case, it's just natural.
So I can say that for me also, like Nieves said, that I started doing digital photography first, and I liked the part about composing images and things like that. But then I discovered I actually got a film camera for free, and I decided to try it. And then once I got this physical, tangible result, I kind of was hooked immediately, because it's something I can touch, and I can, it just gives me some kind of a final result. And then I started to experiment, like, what can I do to alter it? And it just sort of gives you endless freedom. And the actual analog process is just so infinite. You can do so many things. Like, it's just, you can film, you can do printing, you can do cyanotypes, you can do all kinds of things. And it's just, to me, it seems endless. And I feel like I can spend the whole lifetime doing that, and I will not learn anything. So it just gives me a lot of freedom to discover new things and experiment.
Yeah, like for me, as I said before, it was something I discovered during my studies in university, but more specifically, what like really amazed me about this process was that I was always in a hurry when I was painting. Like when I was approaching my work, there was always some kind of hurry to be finished it soon, or to not be able to give it its time. So to have some times that I needed to wait, or some chemistry that needed to be done in a certain way, that like kind of helped me become more patient and approach my work in a different way. So that's what actually brought me to continue on this work.
For me, like Rosalie, it came as an accident, but I think I was looking for it, because I also use photography, but when I started doing photography when I was like teenage, I was using disposable cameras because it was the only things I could get. And then suddenly I was in the middle of the digital and analog photographies, and when I started to grow up, everyone has a digital, and you need to have a digital because it's more expensive, but then it's cheaper because you don't have to pay the developing and blah blah blah, and you can make 1,000 pictures and blah blah. But I tried, and I never found any satisfaction or like feeling. I didn't feel anything. So I had my old analog camera, and I continue shooting with that. And one day I say, okay, let's see if there is still someone who's selling film. And then I play with the camera, and I take random pictures and study what the bottoms, they were doing. And I discovered the double exposure by accident, just playing with the camera and looking for a limit on it, and there is no limit.
So my second question is, do you think that as contemporary women artists, we use these alternative mediums as a way to make space for ourselves in a fine art world that's dominated by men?
Shall I go ahead? Around is quite a supportive community. So well, I mean, I can see Sara invited us to come to do the shows. Everybody tried to collaborate. The less rules and it's more open to creativity. So it's a world which is good for women, I think.
Yeah, I think that we have always been told, and not just women, but everyone has been told what art should be, and more contemporary art explores the, widening that range. And I think that the more you experiment, basically, the more you widen that range. And I think it's important to continue to explore, because in the end, it's really not the final product. It's also the discovery and the process that leads you to create something. So yeah, I think it's important.
So I think what interests me the most is the processes, like we've all been saying, the kind of tactile nature of everything and how hands-on and physical it is. And I think that sometimes that's hard to see in the final image. And so how do you guys try and make it so that, I don't know, this is kind of something I'm always struggling with, but how do you make it so that when people see it, they see everything that went into it and not just the final image? Is there a way that you kind of the experimentation, I think, leads to showing what happened. And so I think that's maybe why we're all kind of drawn to the process, is because the final image itself poses a bunch of questions. Because when you look at Laura's, right, you see this picture that should look like a normal 35mm picture, but there's all these strange colors. And then you look at Rosalie's and you're like, where did this crazy texture come from? And so I kind of like that our work poses more questions than it does answers. Am I wrong, or do you guys feel the same way?
No, I definitely feel that. And I think as I'm continuing to experiment in the way that I do, I'm also finding that I felt like in the beginning I still had to frame it in the way that art is typically framed. So the first time that I showed any of the Polaroids for the East Austin studio tour, I put them all in these white IKEA frames that were super clean, and they were hung all at the same level. And all of the questions that I got were, even people that bought them put them in different frames. The frames were very boring, and I realized that that's a very weird way to do it. I was still trying to fit into that very clean, I don't know what the word is that I'm looking for, but I was still trying to, in a weird way, make it fit into the fine art world instead of expanding it in my own way, which is something I'm no longer doing. So.
Maybe, I don't know, we're just used to, during all these years in history, just reflecting on what you were saying, Sara, is that we have this need to find another way to do something, or to, I don't know, to make something, to make the difference in something, or not to make it as everyone else, or try to find a solution for making us being heard. I don't know if I explained well.
Yeah, I think you did. Okay, so we have 15 minutes left. So I want to see if anybody has questions. Nobody's really put any questions in, but oh, here we go. Gail has a question. So she says, I was touched by what Melanie said to have a photographic art for Remember Me. I collected photos from antique shops and it makes me sad. I wonder if these people in the photos are remembered after their image is gone from their home. And a question for the panel. Have you found ways to interpret the pandemic in your work?
I'm sorry. I'm trying to see the question. Oh, okay. I have.
So for Melanie, it was saying like, do you wonder if the people in the photos are remembered after their image is gone? Or for Nieves, because you're using collage.
Yeah, it's a. I don't know. Yes, I suppose yes. But yes, it's a way to find a place anyway, and then you are alive or you are dead. You have a place in the photo, on the photo, and then it is a remembering. But Nieves, who work with the old photos, is a it is, yeah, when you give away your own picture, and because a lot of family just don't look at them, and they sell them on the old market and etc. And you can use them. It's always a question for me, because what are becoming the persons on the picture, and this is like a new life, but in the same time you just give away the ancient life of the picture. And it is I have no answer, but I can imagine from family yes, and sometimes no. There is no answer for me, I mean.
Okay, so the next question for everybody is, have you found ways to interpret the pandemic in your work? So being stuck at home, isolation, things like that, has that affected your work, and have you put it into your work?
I have found that I'm using limited resources, definitely, because especially in the beginning, all the photo labs have closed, so I've had to innovate and find my own ways to do it at home. And also because, you know, things you can do are limited. So I'm actually working on a series that captures a pandemic. So yeah, it's sad, but it always gives an opportunity to work on something, I guess.
In my case, was easy because I had plenty thousand of photos and books in my at home. So when I had to be isolated for weeks and weeks, although I didn't stop my job in my school, but I have to be isolated a few weeks. So it was just the most fantastic thing. I think I can't explain myself. I can start a new project, and I had the material to do it. Yes, it's a reflection of that moment. I just started a new project with the characters are always alone. I don't know. I think it's just a further expression of our time, our COVID pandemic moment. So yeah, happy to do that. Yeah.
For me, I made a lot of I didn't made a lot of picture, but it was like very tiny windows in the time, and sometimes I took a lot and sometimes not. It depends. I worked also because I work in a hospital during the every time. Then it's open, of course, but. I think it's the first time I was obliged to stay at home, and I was obliged to photograph my intimacy, really, like with self-portraits. And often I don't photograph my companion, but this time I made it. It was the first time, and I like it actually. And yeah, it's open something. I was more uncomfortable with the after pandemic, it was more difficult for me.
I didn't work on the pandemic specifically, but I used the extra time I had to read way more books. Even though I live in my studio, I decided not to work for like the 2 months of lockdown. And I decided only to read because it's something I never give enough time. So it was kind of like a challenge to me not to work even though I could, and only read. And only after the lockdown, I started working on mapping the books I was reading. So it's not about the pandemic, but it's more about like my intimacy, my routine during the lockdown and what I learned. And as I don't work with photography directly, I worked with like specifically the underlines of the books I was reading. So that's my way to see the lockdown and the isolation and the situation.
For me, it was, I had a feeling that the time was still and not, we were not progressing in our life, we were in like a standstill. So I had a desire to build objects and do things with my hand, to concentrate and be in the flow and forget about what's happening around us. So I kind of process any kind of fear or anxiety by building the object. And the creation was like a sort of like a detox, or at the end I would feel better, I would feel calmer. And the trace, all the trace and the mark which are on the object coming from the various stage of processing, destroying, repairing the object, and come from this any kind of anxiety or fear that arises in the pandemic.
For me, I didn't know if I didn't work a lot during the pandemic on like new things, but yes, through this work that is in the show, I also wanted to show like a difference from one picture when you take it and it's clean, and then after something from the outside is being aggressive on you, or like some situation like could be the pandemic or anything else in your life, what is living after, like the colors and the film that is destroyed. It's like a kind of wound to show, but it's inside and we all change in some way, but we don't show it from the outside.
Thanks, everybody. Kai Lewis, I'm not sure how to say your name, but they asked a question: do you believe that women have a freer outlook and are not bound by the restrictions of technicalities and process compared to men?
I have the impression, because it's not an affirmation, I'm not a man, but I think I feel that I feel free from the technicity, and always when my work is shown, I have some question about the technical, how I do thing. Oh, sorry, how does I do that or that, and often the men I meet in the photographic topic is they have it's the more important is the camera and how to use it and what is the result with it. And yeah, I think it's less intuitive and less but not all the men, of course, it's like often in the photo club, they are like men 60 years old and they know everything about the photo and they want to learn you. And yeah, sometimes it's like this. Of course, it's not all time like this, but yeah, sometimes I feel free from the technique because all it's possible.
Or I can say, like, I feel free from the technique too. I think it's useful to learn the technique as well as you can in order to use it in a more free way. But I can't tell if like women feel more free than men. I think that it depends on how well you use the technique, and from it you can use it as in a more free way.
Okay, Eli asked a question. Experimentation can sometimes yield disappointing results. Do any of you ever experience moments of frustration or boredom with certain processes? If so, how have you broken free or found something new and exciting in those times?
I have buckets of Polaroids that were obliterated by whatever I soaked them in. I have actually in my sink in the kitchen right now, it's full of a bunch that I injected with really strong drain cleaner, and it didn't really yield anything cool at all. It just like destroyed everything. But I mean, it did lead to just realizing that I had to use less of it and maybe not apply it directly and in like a syringe. Instead, I will just like soak it and like not have any holes in the frame. So I mean, I feel like it's anything else. Like you try it and it doesn't work, and then you try again or adjust the formula a little. And that disappointment, like, and if you don't try, you don't know. So I just take it as a learning moment and move on.
I feel that sometimes you have something great and you're gonna destroy it by adding something, and you may regret it, but if you never take any risk, you're never gonna learn, and if it works, you can be in wonder of what happened, and it's gonna be new and it's gonna be exciting. It's like going back to childhood. And it's very rare that we have this opportunity of having a real excitement of something extraordinary. So it won't happen, and sometimes it'll be disappointing. But when it happened, I think it's worth all the failure before. So I don't mind for the failure. I just enjoy when it works.
I have the feeling that the more important thing is to experiment. I don't know how to say. Yeah.
I suppose that disappointing results are part of the process. They are really welcome because you have the opportunity to contrast and to feel, look at different sides. So in my case, I'm not, I don't feel frustration when something is wrong, just the opposite. Okay, it's a new way, no? It's a new learning. Regarding boredom, I think it's this field of experimentation, experimental photography, or this kind of natural or organic visual art. I think it's infinite. It's infinite. It's just you can explore, get in another way, in another direction, and come back. I never feel boring with this kind of visual art. But that's the reason I decided to get this field, no, this path.
For me, mistakes or disappointing results or something that is not perfect, it's something that it's better than the perfection, or I don't know how to say, but it's like something that has your personality because it's your mistake. It's something that you did and no one else will do the same. So it gives the touch of something new, something different, and can give another message. It's not the one that maybe you want to give from the beginning, but there is another message.
I would
So
say,
yeah,
I would agree. I think
experimenting.
that whenever there's like a problem with one, it just gives me a chance to try further. So if there's a mistake in the experimental process, it just leaves room to experiment even more.
Yeah.
Okay, does anybody have any closing comments? Because we're at our 2 o'clock time.
Just want to say thanks a lot, Sarah, for including us in the show and for organizing all of this.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'm
Same.
really
Yes,
that,
thank you.
I'm really happy that everybody could participate. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Erica, for hosting our show.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for attending.
Thank you.